Hey, what's up y'all? It's Jodo Jake. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going back in time. Yes, we are taking a break from modern to talk a little bit about vintage. We are going to talk about Base Set today. We're going to talk a little bit about the history behind Base Set, the different languages that Base Set was printed in, and most importantly, we're going to talk about the different variations of Base Set and how to identify them. And stick around till the end of the video where we'll talk a little bit about different misprints and errors that came along with the production of Base Set. Base Set is the very first Pokemon card expansion released in the Pokemon trading card game. It was initially released in Japan in October of 1996, and in January of 1999, it was released to the rest of the world. Base Set was printed in 10 different languages. It was printed in Chinese, Dutch, English, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Portuguese, Spanish, and Korean. The Pokemon Company had a contract with a company known as Wizards of the Coast to produce all of their Pokemon cards in North America. And because of this, Base Set is considered a Wizards of the Coast or WotC era set. In order to identify a Base Set Pokemon card, there's two main things to look out for. The first thing to look for is the set symbol, and Base Set doesn't have one. So if you look in the bottom right of the artwork, you'll see that there is no set symbol. The second most obvious thing is the set number. Base Set had 102 cards, so in the bottom right of the card, you can see the number of the card in the set, and it will be out of 102. So Base Set wasn't actually the only set to not have a set symbol in Wizards of the Coast. There was actually an error in production for Jungle Unlimited Holos where the set symbol was not applied during the printing process. So you can find Jungle Holos with no set symbol. But the easy way to tell the difference is that Jungle only has 64 cards in the set, while Base Set has 102. Base Set included 16 different holo foil rares that you can pull from booster packs. It included Alakazam, Blastoise, Chansey, Charizard, Clefairy, Gyarados, Hitmonchan, Machamp, Magneton, Mewtwo, Nidoking, Ninetales, Poliwrath, Raichu, Venusaur, and Zapdos. Now, what is First Edition? First Edition refers to the very first release of a card. And with Base Set, that's identified with a First Edition stamp. The First Edition stamp is made up of a black circle with the number 1 in the center and the word edition that curves around the top part of the circle. Now, if you have a Base Set Charizard that doesn't have this stamp, it is one of the other variations of Base Set, not First Edition. Now, there is one exception to this, and that is Machamp. Machamp was always printed with the First Edition stamp, aside from the Trainer Deck A version of the card. One thing to really note is that the Shadowless version of the First Edition Machamp is considered to be the first print run of Machamp. So now you're probably wondering, what is Shadowless? So from my understanding, Base Set had 8 different print runs. And while Wizards of the Coast was printing First Edition, they had to stop with the First Edition stamp to show that that was the first release. But they continued to use that template without including that First Edition stamp. So you'll see that the main difference between First Edition and Shadowless is that it's missing the First Edition stamp. Now, after this initial print run, Wizards of the Coast had changed the template used for Base Set, and collectors immediately noticed differences between the cards. And that brings us to our next version of Base Set, which is Unlimited. Now, if we compare Shadowless versus Unlimited side by side, there are many differences between these cards. The most notable one was the box shadow. There are a few differences between Unlimited and Shadowless. The first one is that the HP for the Pokemon is slightly bolder with Unlimited. On Unlimited, the image of the card is slightly zoomed out. Now, the overall appearance of Shadowless cards are much more vibrant with soft and muted tones, while the Unlimited counterpart is much more saturated and deeper in contrast. Now, there's also differences in the Nintendo Creatures Game Freak copyright dates at the bottom of the cards between Shadowless and Unlimited. For Shadowless, the copyright dates will read 95 through 99, whereas Unlimited will have 95 through 98. Now, it should be noted that both variances will still say 1999 Wizards. Now, Unlimited went all the way through that 7th print run, leaving us with that final 8th print run, which is known as the 1999 to 2000 variant of Base Set. Now, if we're comparing Unlimited side by side with the 1999 to 2000 variant, there's honestly no real differences aside from what's the most obvious part about the name of this variant, and that is the copyright date. The copyright date included the year 2000, and some have also said that if you have these cards side by side, you can see some color differences. People have also said that the 1999 to 2000 variant is hands down the best print quality of Base Set. Now, one last thing I want to note about this 1999 to 2000 variant is that it's also commonly known as the UK 4th print. So if you see either of these terms used for this version, it's referring to the same variant. And that's because there's a lot of collectors without extensive knowledge in the hobby that think that there's only 4 different print runs of English base set. And that's because they think that 1st edition, Shadowless, Unlimited are the first 3, and that 4th print UK is the last and final print run. But that is actually not the case. Now, there is actually variances in between the variances I mentioned in this video. And if we actually go back and take a look at 1st edition, there are 2 variances of the 1st edition stamp, known as thin stamp and thick stamp. Now, in order to identify the difference, you have to look at the 1 in the middle of the black circle. And this has to do with the font weight. So if you look at a 1 that has a bolder, more heavy font, that is considered the thick stamp. And if you find a 1 that's much thinner, that's actually the thin stamp. Now, this variant in 1st edition stamp is only in base set. When we went into jungle, fossil, and so on, those stamps were always thin stamp for 1st edition. Now, I don't want to get grilled in the comments, so I'm only going to mention a few, but there are a few cards in base set that have their own unique variants. And one of them is the Galaxy Machamp. So base set had always had a star foil pattern, and that's just the term used for the type of pattern used for base set foiling. Inside the 2-player CD-ROM starter kit, you would find a variant of Machamp with a Galaxy Hollow foil pattern. This was the only way to obtain this variant of the Machamp from base set. Another variant that you actually might be familiar with is the Yellow Cheek, Red Cheek Pikachu. And this variant was only available in booster packs from 1st edition and Shadowless. Now we can talk a little bit about some of the errors. So one of the most known errors with base set is gray stamp 1st edition. And this was caused when the ink drying on a 1st edition stamp was stuck to the card on top of it, and it would actually remove a layer of that ink, causing the 1st edition stamp to look a little bit more gray and less saturated. There are also some other rare errors of 1st edition stamp, one known as the off-aligned 1st edition stamp and the other known as the Ghost or Phantom Pikachu Air 1st edition stamp. Now I want to talk about a few of my favorite airs that are actually really desirable because only a set few of these cards had the air or misprint. Now the first one I want to talk about is actually my favorite, and that is the No Stage Air Blastoise. During the Unlimited run of base set, there were a few Blastoise cards that actually had the missing word stage, and it was entirely omitted from the card, so it had this empty spot where that word was supposed to be. Another one of my favorites is the No Damage Ninetales. During the Shadowless variant of base set, there was a chance that you can open a Brush Fire deck to pull a Ninetales, and that Ninetales Fire Blast attack actually had no damage. Now the last air that I want to talk about before wrapping up this video is a funny one, and that is the Evolution Box Wartortle. Now, Wartortle actually evolves from Squirtle, for those that don't know. I hope most of you do. And when you had a Wartortle card, in the Evolution Box you would see a little Squirtle. But on this Evolution Box Air Wartortle, you would actually see Wartortle in the Evolution Box. So you'd kind of be confused because Wartortle does not evolve into Wartortle. All right, y'all, so that wraps up the video for today. And I just want to note that I didn't actually go into detail of every single variant of base set. There are also variants in Japanese, and there are plenty of other airs and misprints that I didn't mention. I really just wanted to talk about the 4 core variants of base set, and I really hope that you learned something. So please let me know in the comments if there was something new that you learned about base set after watching this video. And if you want to see more vintage content from this channel, please make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Now, I'm not going to give anything away, but there is some huge vintage Pokemon card content coming to this channel. So like I said, stick around for that. And until next time, happy collecting, y'all. Peace.